So, seen any good moves lately? Welcome back to episode number 5 of Seen Any Good Moves Lately coverage of Survivor 50. That is right, it's episode 5 of season 50. That's crazy. And you know what's even crazier than that numbers? Well, our guest is the one, the only, the amazing Addie. How are you doing, Addie?
The crazy Addie.
I realized that was the direction it was heading, and I knew I had to pivot,
You
so
know those
I did
crazy
not say that.
women.
That's what the edit's saying because they're not paying
That's what.
attention to the women. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm doing as a host. I value women. I'll be brave and I'll say that I value women. I
Mm, mm.
do. How are you doing, Addie?
Are you a nice guy as well? Would you call
I
yourself a nice guy?
I'll say this. I'm not a guy's guy like Rizzo, or I'm not a guy's guy. So there you go.
Okay. Sorry.
How's it going? How are things?
Things are good. Things are going good.
Yeah.
Um, Watching
Um,
Survivor 50, and
it's Survivor
46, but
50. And let me ask you, what do you think about the season so far? How are we feeling?
I think the first 3 episodes were like some of the best Survivor I've ever watched.
Wow.
Like not the best, but it had some really strong. It was a strong start. I think the last episode was good mostly. There was one thing that some things I was frustrated by, but that wasn't like the player's fault. Um, and then this episode, I would consider this one technically good, probably.
Technically good, probably. See, that's kind of how I felt about the last episode, about the Zach Brown inning, which is like, theoretically, this is a very cool episode because it has a unique reward and it has a 3-2-1 vote against Mike White, and it's like the David versus Goliath of it all. Theoretically, it should be a very, very good episode, but it was still good. It was just like, that was a little more Zach Brown than I signed up for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I give my brief thoughts on that?
Sure,
I'll
please
keep it
go
brief
ahead.
because we're not on episode 4. We've moved on. Well, happily. Um, but I think that the reward itself was not an issue because let's be real, it was a sponsored reward,
Yeah.
like Applebee's. I
Hmm.
don't get mad at Applebee's rewards. I love them.
Yeah.
But it was a sponsored reward, disguised as like this ultra great experience, which I'm sure it was a fun experience for the people that got the reward. Um, but because it was like an ad, it I think you felt it like with the spearfishing and zooming on the name, like the names on the thing, like the
Yeah.
background of it all. Um, I also think I would have had no issue with it if it was 3 to 5 minutes shorter and
Sure.
had no confessionals.
Yeah.
Zach Brown didn't need a confessional. We can hear him talking to the contestants on the sanctuary at the sanctuary.
Yeah. And to give my 2 cents about it, I agree that, it should have been shorter. I don't think you'll find anybody who disagrees about that. My problem isn't necessarily the spearfishing or the confessional of it all. Mine is just like, okay, did I really need to hear him play music and get the live, like Colby reaction of how he feels about this music being played? I don't know. I don't know if I needed that. I don't know if I needed any of it, but I don't. I think I especially didn't need their reactions to their private concert, which I guess is cool, but also,
I
you
I
know,
think that I think that's the part I'm least offended by because you have
okay,
a musician coming. You're going to have music.
yeah,
Is kind
yeah.
of my thought on that. But
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. But unfortunately, Zach Brown, he had to leave the beach. He had to go back to his band, of which his band is named him. Haha. Um, and so we come to episode 5, and we are at an interesting point in the game where apparently we're right before the merge. So we all thought, I guess. Um, and in
yeah.
this beach, we have Christian. Ozzy, Stephanie, and Emily, who just pulled off a blindside of Mike White. And Angelina is also there. I almost forgot about Angelina. But yeah, she's also there. Um, what did you think about the move against Mike White in episode 4?
So I think that it was interesting. I wish we would have been able to spend more time there to have more fully formed opinions on the reasoning behind each player's decisions.
Yeah.
I think that Emily, she survived the tribal council, therefore, but like, I think she played it very well.
Hmm.
I think Stephanie, similarly, who was in a pretty vulnerable position, if you look at numbers alone, played it pretty well. Um, Christian, I don't think that I think that he had a couple fumbles, even though it was like his move and a fun move. I
Yeah.
don't know if it was the best move for Christian's game. I think that going for Mike White is fine if you can. I don't think it needed to be forced in that moment, but I do think that Christian was so worried about Mike White's ability to tell a compelling story to move people to decisions
Yeah.
that he was scared of of him doing that to someone else, and that messing with his game. Um, and so I understand why Mike White was a target. I don't understand why he needed to be the target that episode, and I
Yeah.
don't understand why not looping in Ozzy like a little bit, just like, hey, we gotta save Emily. I didn't tell you initially because I was nervous about you sharing it with Mike because I know y'all are close. You know, I think that, you know, we know Ozzy is a player. You can expect for him to have big emotions and reactions to things. And so that's why I'm
Mhm.
like, Christian kind of, uh, I think that Ozzy is just the not the type of player that you can come back to working with after. I mean, obviously it happened, but easily come back to working with after breaking trust.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think also a part of it, I think Christian's biggest mistake is something that doesn't even necessarily have to do with a move. I just think the way that he's positioned himself, maybe it's a good problem to have, but I think he's burning a bridge no matter what way he goes there. Whether he's getting rid of Emily or Angelina or Mike White, I mean, or Stephanie, whatever direction he takes. Well, maybe not Stephanie, but the rest, he's burning a bridge there with somebody. And I
Hmm.
think part of that is just the problem of like, this is what happens either A, when you go to every single tribal council thus far, or B, when you are, let's be real. I mean, the edits, you can only trust it so much, but from everything we're being given, he's the person who's leading the charge on every vote. So, I mean, I think
Yes.
that's kind of what happens when you push for something like that. So, I don't know. I don't know if it was the right move or the wrong move. I still think I probably would have gotten rid of Angelina first, but I mean, I think he definitely did try to force the issue because I mean, Mike White was probably a bigger threat than Angelina, anyways. Even though I don't think either of them were huge threats at all, honestly. But
I think that all three of them being there together is what's the threat, and Christian's the most threat y
for sure,
appearing as the three. And so I think that it is more dangerous for Christian to go into the merge with all three of them together. But I don't think that, I don't think that if you look at each of them individually, they're the biggest threat. But they are a
yeah.
numbers threat, which I think is what Christian saw.
And I think that's interesting that you say that because I think we saw that with the reaction that people had to Mike White getting voted out in this episode, where it's like theoretically it's a tribe of six, I think, three people are David versus Goliath. And you go in and you see, oh, all of a sudden Mike White's gone. So everybody else on the beach has to realize that, oh, one of Angelina or Christian flipped on them, or some real crazy stuff happened. Um, because yeah, I mean, yeah, it was. I probably would have been surprised if Mike White had been voted out, especially because, I mean, he's not great in the challenges, but he does have a six pack. Like, that's something that is going in his favor, I
I don't
guess.
think he
But
hurt any challenge. I don't think he was
no,
never the reason a challenge was lost.
no, he wasn't, which is a surprise. I mean, I don't think I would have expected him to not be very good at the challenges, but there you go. Either way, he's gone now. He's gone off to be mad about his elimination everywhere. Go ahead.
And you know what? I'm glad he's gone. Look, that's what you get for going after Q.
There you go.
You
There
vote
you
for
go.
you lead the charge against Q when in all your pre-interview stuff you're talking about how you want to make good TV and you vote out Q over Stephanie, who's like boring in
Yeah.
everything she's on, in my opinion. Like, don't tell me you're making good TV. You're playing,
Mhm. Well, I think that's a good segue to start talking about some of these castaways and whether or not they are boring or not, or whether we just haven't seen enough of them and things like that. So let's start going through these people. And we're gonna start, of course, because this is a double elimination episode, with the one tribe that didn't go to tribal council, which is Kalo. And I just picked up the order and generally who has been least on screen to most on screen recently.
mm.
And so of course that means with the Kalo tribe, we are going to start with Chrissy, who did not get a confessional this episode, and I will say has been very upset on Twitter about it, which I think is more than valid. But I mean, from what we've seen from Chrissy, what do we think of her so far this season?
So, full transparency, I have not seen Healers, Heroes, Hustlers. Is that the
Hmm.
season? Is that the name of it?
Yes,
Triple
yes.
H.
Well, that's interesting. Then you have a fresh perspective on who this
So,
who this random woman is.
um, I have enjoyed Chrissy this season. Um, I've been uh like empathetic because can you imagine Coach being the one to tell you that you're too much?
Oh my god, it really
and
is a
and
nightmare
it's not that he
scenario.
said, "Hey, people are still like you're bossing them around." He said, "Hey, you gotta."
He was more direct about it, for better or for worse. He was very much like, yeah, people don't really like you or anything. He didn't say that, but that was the vibe I got from it.
Yeah, it. I think that he wasn't direct in telling her what the thing that people were frustrated with was. He
Yeah.
just told her that people weren't they didn't like her basically. Instead of saying, "Hey, this is the behavior that people are frustrated with."
Hmm.
That would have, I think, come across much better and much more helpful. Anyway, so but like I think her reaction to that is totally, you know, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
let me ask you a question because that makes me think. Because I don't know what I would think in this situation, but for you, if you were Chrissy and Coach was like, "Hey, people don't like you. You should change that," but like didn't get into specifics, would you be like, "Well, thank God he told me that," or would you be like, what the hell? Like, why aren't you telling me what it is?
what do I need to change? That would be my
Yeah.
thought is, what am I doing? My thought would just be like, oh, you're just trying to upset me
Yes. Yeah.
instead of trying to play the game with me.
Yeah.
Because if you were trying to play the game with me, you would tell me what I'm doing so that I can course correct. Now I'm just going to be hurt without knowing how to correct the behavior. Even if
Yeah.
it's something you want to correct, people can play how they want to play. But like, if you want people, if you don't want to get voted off, people liking you tends to help.
That's true. That's a good point. I mean, yeah, Chrissy was going to be the first boot on her tribe. It seems like everybody was kind of in agreement on. So, I mean, here's the thing: is that because it was Coach saying that, I'm sure he feels like, man, I'm such a good Samaritan. Like, I did not need to tell her that, but I did out of the kindness of my heart, out of my
Mhm.
my honor, comma my integrity. When it was. I'm not saying that wasn't like that he wasn't thinking he was doing the right thing or it wasn't the right thing to do. I just think that he's very aware that that it was probably the right thing to do, if that makes sense. Even
Yeah,
if the way that he went about it was pretty weird.
yeah. But to talk about Christy, I think that I've like I think we've seen more of her than actually some other people on the tribe with her. But I do think that I don't know who she is other than the segment we got of like I know like 3 things about Christy.
Mhm.
I know that she was uh momming people.
Yes, yes.
There was a thing about that. Then I know that she had an emotional reaction
Mhm.
to being told that people were not jiving with her,
Yeah,
which is understandable. And then I know that she had a recent life thing happened and that that is semi coming into the game with her.
yeah. And I mean, that really is all we've gotten from her this season, which is kind of the reason I put her at the start of this is I don't know where she stands in the game. I guess she's in an alliance with Coach, but I haven't really seen that. So I don't know. I imagine we'll probably get more from her later, but that's about all my thoughts on her for now. Moving on, let's go to another
Great picture, by the
person.
way. She looks great there.
This is like the one screenshot of her the entire episode. I went through the episode and this is the one thing. But hey, lovely smile, so good for her.
Hmm.
Let's move on to the next person. Tiffany, who also did not get a confessional this episode. Um, and another person who we have not seen much of this season at all.
I
But
think we've
hey,
seen less of Tiffany than Christy,
yeah,
probably.
I will say Tiffany, for her credit, did have an awesome moment this episode where she spun a rope on a bag really efficiently. It's something I've never seen before on Survivor. I thought that that was enough to get her at least one confessional,
Like
maybe
a
even
confessional.
two. But I
Yeah.
understand that that's too crazy. I mean, it's not like they're 90-minute episodes or anything.
Yeah.
Um, but what do we think about Tiffany so far in the limited time we've seen her?
So I'm for a little bit of context, I'm currently rewatching 46 with my sister who's never seen it and
Mm,
was watching 50 with me. So I'm like seeing a lot of Tiffany and seeing how great she is on 46 and then coming to watch episodes of 50 because I was telling my sister like no there's a reason she's on the show. There's a reason she got cast. Because she was asking me, she's like, what is Tiffany doing? And I was like, look, just let's watch 46. But because I liked Tiffany in 46. I like, honestly, 90% of the cast of 46, you could slap on another season. I'd be
yeah.
like, yeah.
It's a fun season. Lots of fun personalities on
Yeah, I think it's a
46.
fun cast for the most part. Um, but this season, I don't really know anything. I have no opinion on Tiffany other than I hope she's not the one that gets the blowback from working with Aubrey.
Yeah.
My fear would that be that she would be the one to get taken out because Aubrey has the idol
Yeah, yeah,
or
kind of
something
a
in that
split vote
range of
sort of
things. Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
But that's my like only thing is like I know that she wants to work with Aubrey. Um
I mean, what else is
and
there
that's
really to
it.
say? Yeah, I mean, there's nothing, which is, we're at episode 5 now. I mean, hopefully next episode we can get some content, but also
Mhm.
it'll be a 17-person merge
Yeah.
theoretically, so I don't know if that's happening.
Also, I just want to say all of the people that have gotten 0 confessionals in an episode are women.
Yep.
Survivor, like I feel like we've been over this before.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it
anyway.
definitely I think this episode is all women. I think it's been like 80% women throughout the season, which is crazy. I know Rick Devens, I think last episode didn't have a confessional, and
Oh,
then
he's the
some
only.
other
Okay, then
guy,
he's the only one. Okay,
some
sorry.
other guy I think also maybe, but I don't even know who it was. So
At
clearly it
least
didn't
not
mean
an
that much.
episode. At least
But
not by episode 3. There was
yes,
no man that had gotten 0 confessionals,
yeah,
and multiple women.
yeah. So I mean, I shake my head and say I don't agree with that. But am I surprised? No. I mean,
No,
I'm not surprised by that at all,
yeah.
honestly.
It's which Survivor like consistently over edits men and under edits women. If you look at the percentage of time given.
Yeah.
But I guess I kind of hope that, oh, it's a returning season. Everyone is going to get to have moments to shine.
Yes.
Um, and we just haven't had that, which is it honestly, where you have season 19 in the back
Yes.
where there's
Samoa. Yeah.
one person who's doing all of the narrating
Hmm.
and then other people like are
Natalie White. Yeah. Just
yeah,
did nothing.
yeah.
That's actually part of the reason I put on Samoa in the background is I partially put it on because of two things. I mean, we'll get to this later, but I mean, I put it on because Rizzo directly said Russell Hantz when he was talking about two-time players, and then also
Yes.
the whole thing about Charlie's number one ally not voting for him at the end. That's basically what happened to Russell Hantz on this season, where everyone was his number one and no one voted for him at the end. So that's why I put it on. Just a little thematic thing. I'm
Yes.
smart that way. Um, but
Such a
yes,
smarty.
Tiffany has not been on shown on the season much. I mean, I've been thinking about it because I think about Survivor a lot. That's why I have this podcast. And I think part of it is probably internalized misogyny, as it often is. I think partially part of it is also
She hasn't
it
been to
is
travel.
it is 24 people and she hasn't gone to tribal council. I do think that's part of it as well. And maybe part of it is just like Tiffany has had not had as much to show compared to other contestants, probably
Hmm.
because she's playing better than other contestants because she's willing to be more subtle. I
Yeah.
think I think that's good. I think that speaks to her, especially her. Chrissy, you could argue, well, we should get more content of her regardless because she was apparently spiraling earlier. But with Tiffany, it's like I have no reason to think that she's done anything interesting. But that also means I don't have any reason to think that she'll be in danger anytime soon, which means I think we'll get
Yes.
more Tiffany content later. So that's my thought
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah. I feel it's almost felt like the old editing where you have a few narrators and then other people get content the episode before and the episode they go out.
Yeah, yeah. It does feel like that to some extent. I felt like that definitely happened with Angelina this episode where it
Yeah.
was nothing and then, it really wasn't even that much. Like we didn't
It
get
was
much
just
of her this
she
episode,
just
but
was
it was just
there.
something. But we got something like the last two episodes. So,
Yeah.
there you go.
But I also yeah. It's not been quiet as telegraphed as that, but it has
Sometimes it feels
remnants
like that.
as yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to our next people. This is the group. If I did this correctly, yes, this is kind of our man group. This is old school man section. So we're gonna start this section with Joe Hunter, everyone's favorite fireman. What do we think of Joe?
Okay, so I've never been a Joe hater.
Hmm.
I've been a Joe is boring TVer before,
Yeah.
but I think he's actually played a very good game up to this point.
Yeah.
I think that every decision has like I can understand every choice he's made. Even if I wouldn't have made them myself, none of them were like outlandish. Um, I mean, there was the thing with Rick, but I think that was but I understand why you're like, I caught you in a lie. Why did you lie to me? As a fair question to ask.
Yeah.
It can also not be fun to be caught in a lie and like I think that there's multiple pieces to there's different points of view on that, but like I understand his thought process. I think that other than maybe confronting someone in a way that was a little bit too intense,
Yeah.
um, he's made pretty good choices and seems to be doing well strategically. Um, so I've liked Joe. Um, I'm not like Joe's my favorite this season, but I haven't been like, gosh, Joe, this is gonna be boring. He's gonna, muscle his honor and integrity into the game. I don't think that,
Mhm.
I've had
Yeah.
no issue.
I mean, to be honest, I don't quite agree with you. I won't say that Joe's a dud. I actually think he's brought more to this season than I expected him to personally, just in terms of him being a dramatic paranoid guy. Like that's entertaining to watch. But I do think there's partial part of this is probably that Joe hasn't been to tribal council since the new swap. But I do think there's a bit of a difference in the perpetually salty challenge beast archetype between him and Ozzy that it's like if this season has proven anything, it's like I would watch Ozzy 10,000 times before I'd watch Joe again. I think the
Interesting.
entertainment value is way higher with Ozzy personally. Though I also understand why you would disagree with that, which I think that you do. So I don't know.
I I don't feel like I'm watching the same archetype at all between the two of them.
Okay.
Um, I think that I've also have never liked Ozzy on a season I've watched Ozzy on. This is the first time I've liked him at any percent.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's kind of what
So,
I'm getting at is like
but
Ozzy.
I have enjoyed Ozzy more than I typically do. Um,
Yeah,
I have liked I think I just appreciate Joe's I think that I think that Joe's seeing Joe's brain work and how he does like process things differently than the other players has been more interesting than watching Ozzy do mostly the same thing but word it differently so that it sounds like it's a new thing. You know?
that's kind of exactly why I do like Ozzy because his multi-season character arc has been basically him doing the same thing for now 5 times. This is his fifth time doing the exact same thing, but this time it is with a certain spice to it of oh man, I've done this a lot. I've played Survivor before, but it's like you see with this episode, Christian's like he's doing the same thing he did in the South Pacific. Like he did the same thing 12 years ago, and he hasn't changed at all. That's why I think it's fascinating. Part of that, honestly, is not fair to Joe because I mean it's only been in Joe's world in Survivor 50. I think it's been like 4 months since he last played or something like that. Maybe
It
more like
has
a
not
year.
been long and
Yeah,
he very recently saw so it was not long between them filming and then like the show airing.
yeah.
And then it also wasn't long between the show airing and then him going out there. So he's like in the mode of processing everything that just happened,
Yeah, and I
which
mean,
I think is really interesting to see him do that.
I will also say, in addition to all that, like for the Joe Ozzy comparison, once again, something I also find interesting is Ozzy truly believes he's changed, right? Ozzy's like, I'm Oscar now, which means something, which I've changed my name, so I'm a different person now. While Joe in the preseason press is like, yeah, I'll play the same. Yeah, it was fine for me last time. I'll just do it again.
I think
So
that I think that Joe's thing was like I'll play with the same goals or something, but be more aware or like have a I think he was trying to have his eyes more open to things, which we've seen play out as paranoia. Um
because of his eyes. Yeah. Yeah.
yes. Um
But
but yeah, I also didn't consume as much preseason press as I normally do. So
yeah.
I don't have that. But I what we've seen in the episode has been like I'm still Joe, but I'm now scared of being made to look a fool, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this about Joe to give him credit. Like, if Ozzy were in the situation where Coach was bestowing him a nickname of the Stone Bell Monk, I think it was, I do not think Ozzy would take. Well, actually, he might take that seriously. I don't know, but he wouldn't take it as seriously as Joe did, who was like, "Oh my God, yeah, no, I'm the Stone Bell Monk. Yeah, thank you, Coach. Thank you. This is a true honor." Where I think Ozzy
Yeah.
would be like, "Yeah, for sure, man," and then like move on. But I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I think that I'm just saying, I don't, like I said, I don't think that Joe is the most entertaining player to watch. I don't
hmm
think he was in 48. I don't think he is this season. but I do think that he is playing a good game,
Yeah, I mean,
which
I
is what I
agree with
was
that.
saying initially,
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of got all the traits of like, all right, you can lock this guy up to make mid merge at the earliest every time because he's a physical beast. He's famously very loyal, and he's also not really a threat to win at the end, all things considered. Like he already lost
Yeah,
the final tribal council once. I see no
0
reason
vote
why it wouldn't
finalist.
happen again. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think he's got all the makings to go far. All right. Well, let's move on to member number two in this club of men, Colby, who also got bestowed a nickname. Um, what are we thinking about the old Colbster so far this season?
So when the cast was announced, I was like, really, Colby? And then as the season has aired, I've been like, oh, I see. Like,
Yeah,
I get it. He's been very entertaining, a great confessionalist. I think we've got more Joe content in the first few episodes than we have the last two, other than him talking about the reward.
yeah,
Um, but I've liked what I've seen. Um, I've liked what I've seen of Colby. I actually think that he has legs in this game, you know? I
yeah,
think that he could I think that I was nervous we were going to get season 20 Colby,
for sure.
who didn't really care. But Colby seems to care this time.
Yeah,
And when Colby cares, Colby's fun. Um, and
yeah.
so
I
since yeah, go ahead.
I just think not to interrupt, but I do think that Colby, even back on season 20, even on Heroes versus Villains, even in the midst of him being miserable, still was pretty entertaining. Just in terms of like in a season where everyone was so passionate, having someone who was so apathetic and just wanting to watch Treasure Island and yell at his brother.
Give her back, give it to like telling her give the idol away. Oh gosh.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that being said, when Colby got announced, I was like, okay, yeah, I guess you have to put Colby on the season. I wasn't like, oh, Colby's back. I was like, oh, Colby's back, but no, he has brought a lot more than I certainly expected him to.
Mhm.
So
I loved the Colby and Rizzo conversations of like him being like, this kid's annoying to like, you know what? Maybe he's not the worst. Maybe he's, just a young little whippersnapper, um, finding his way.
and I feel like that's everybody with Rizzo this season. Like Rizzo has just had the arc of, man, this kid's annoying to actually maybe this kid's a kind of awesome. Just like everybody has had that arc with him. So that's pretty fun.
Not everybody.
That's true. That's true. Not quite everybody, just a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um but yes, I think Colby's been fun this season. I also appreciate Colby that I feel like he he both has played Survivor enough to know to like, all right, yeah, I'll feed into coaches like BS. I'll be like, okay, yeah, sure. But also I feel like he's kind of in on the joke of it all. Like I feel like he understands like this is
This is for
stupid.
TV. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could see on his face where he was like, oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Cool, coach. Cool.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Wow, so kind. Completely the opposite of Joe, but saying the same thing. It's very
Yeah.
funny. But I mean, speaking of the man who we just mentioned, we may as well talk about the old Coachster.
My
What
favorite trumpet player.
I mean, one of the best orchestrators, orchestramen, trumpet players, soccer coaches that I could ever imagine. Um,
Mhm.
what do we think about Coach this season?
I mean, I am a Coach fan.
Hmm.
Um, he's I like Coach. I think Coach is gonna be entertaining most of the time.
Yeah,
South Pacific, I think, is probably his least entertaining season. But other than that, he had entertaining moments there. I think that Coach is a great character.
yeah,
Um, Coach is actually my winner pick.
Wow. I mean, hey, I will say this. He's in the middle of the tribe. They said that this episode. So,
Yeah, he's been my winner pick since. Now that is who I picked just like before the season. I don't know how much I hold to that now, but like I haven't swapped it to anybody. But
yeah.
like before the season, I was like, you know what? And this is partially based on how coaches behaved on social media lately.
Mm.
Before the season, I was like, oh, coach is gonna win, which
Hey, if he does, that would be amazing.
that would be wild. Like it's not something I necessarily want to happen, but it's been more of like a sense of dread that this is gonna
A
be what
sense
happens.
of dread. Wow. Okay.
But so that is why I made Coach my preseason winner pick, and I just haven't changed it to anyone else yet because I haven't decided on anybody.
Hey, I mean,
But
he hasn't gone to tribal council yet. I mean, there's been no reason to think that he's in trouble. So
well, he hasn't gone to tribal council yet, and yet has remained a main character,
that's
which is
true.
typically a good sign for your performance in the game.
I do wonder about Coach generally that I feel like he segments out like his entertainment bits. I feel like he's his own producer. He's like, all right, well, for this 2 day period, I got to do something entertaining to get on television. I'll get a cramp, and then this one I'll give out nicknames, and in this one I'll put my toe ring on Charlie. You know.
I do. So I did listen to his some preseason stuff with Coach.
Mhm.
And he talked about, he's like, yeah, no, I have like, I don't just know all these quotes. I study up before I go out
He's
with
he's
quotes.
he's the ultimate performative male, I think.
Like,
Um, yeah. Except
um,
I don't know, is it performative to memorize things? I think if you go on Survivor, it probably is. I mean,
it's performative to memorize a Magellan quote so you can say it at the start of Survivor 50.
it's true. Also, his tattoos are pretty performative too. I mean, I don't know if you can be doing all that, white boy. I'm not sure about that. But
Um,
he's the dragon slayer, so I guess he gets away with
he has
it.
his own form of, I was gonna say martial arts, but I don't really know if that's the right term for it. But he's Coach Chi, you
Of
know.
course he does. Of course he
He
does.
has like I think that Coach is just so fun. I do think he's playing a pretty decent game.
Hmm.
I think that his weakness has been Ozzy and handling that relationship because I think that Coach is both in on the bit and himself. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yes.
Um, and because he is in on the bit, he knows to talk about honor and integrity for his screen time. And so I think that that hurts him long run in the game and hurts him in relationships, even though it's fun.
Yeah.
I do think that he wants that truly, but I don't think that he always thinks he's being as honorable as he says he thinks he is.
Something I've been thinking about this a decent amount, especially with Joe, since they're on the same tribe now. And I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again because I think it's pertinent. Um, to me, it's like when Joe talks about honor and integrity, he's like, all right, my honor in this game, my integrity in this game is also my game in real life. I have to be who I am outside this game. And
Yeah.
Coach, I feel like, will do anything inside the game. But if you question his honor and integrity outside the game, then that's when it gets rough. And essentially, I mean, Ozzy didn't do it intentionally, I don't think, but essentially Ozzy was like, yeah, I mean, this is how this guy always has been, at least since I've known him. And Coach is like, you take that back. I was very honorable, actually. I'm a man of honor. I'm a man of integrity. Which,
Yes.
yeah,
Which it's so interesting to hear about people that like, because we're watching the show version of Coach.
yes,
And then you hear about people's interactions with him, and people talk about this charisma and caringness and like how they're like seeing Coach in person is so different than watching him on the show.
yeah,
And so it's because you wonder how people let him do all this, get away with everything. You like, how do they
sure.
but apparently there's this charm about him that we don't see.
I think we kind of do see it is the thing though. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm sure we all know somebody in our lives who is just like that is they are a complete, unique individual. Like they are a one of a kind person, and as
Mm-hmm.
long as they're not like outwardly cruel, you probably want to get to know them a little better, or at least think that they're interesting. And I think that's the thing with Coach, right?
And yeah, I also think that you want, like, as a person, you want interesting people to also think you're interesting.
Yes.
And so I think that people are like, Coach is so unique and interesting. I want him to think I'm unique, that I'm cool, like, that I am interesting.
That's funny you say that because I know that you didn't watch a lot of the pregame press, but I watched most of it. And that was basically when Mike Bloom asked the question of like, "Hey, do you want to work with Coach?" A lot of people, like say Charlie, were like, "How could I not want to work with Coach?" I mean, to have the honor of being bestowed a nickname by Coach, that would be I wouldn't trade that for the world. You know, there you go. I mean, that's exactly what you were saying to a T is like, yeah, I want coach to think I'm cool enough to be his apprentice. Yeah, I would love that. I think that's kind of what we're seeing.
And he's like saying it like he's not Philip Shepard.
No.
He is like normal enough for you for it to be fun.
Yeah. It's kind
Not
of
to
the
bash Philip Shepard. I'm sure he's a
it's
lovely human.
it's kind of the Goldilocks of like Philip Shepard and Nick Wilson, where it's like Philip Shepard is like he's calling me the specialist. He's calling Eric Reichenbach the quiet one, Corinne the dominatrix. It's like this guy's a cartoon character. This guy's not a human being. Nick Wilson, meanwhile, is going around to everybody and being like, "We're an alliance. We're the Mason Dixon line. We're the
Hmm.
we're the whatever whatever." And it's like, okay, this is just like a normal guy who's like trying a little too hard. Like, well, I wouldn't call Nick Wilson normal in retrospect, but at the time,
At the
that's
time,
what we thought.
your average Joe.
Uh-huh. And then Coach is the equilibrium where it's like this guy's weird, but at the same time it's like he kind of is just like a weird dad or like a weird uncle or something like that. Like he but like kooky in like a
In a
yeah,
harmless way.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's harmless, right? But anyways, yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with Coach throughout the rest of the season for sure. All right, let's move on to our next person, who is going to be Genevieve, who didn't do much this episode. I believe she also did not have a confessional. What do we think about Genevieve so far this season? Because for the most part, I mean, she has been doing a lot of
A
things.
lot. So I was like medium on Genevieve in 47. She was not my favorite player to watch, but I've really loved Genevieve in 50. It's
Mhm.
been a lot of fun. I think that part of it is we didn't really see much of Genevieve early game in
Mhm.
47. And so
You
it's
did,
been fun
yeah,
to see her building relationships, to see that. And I think that part of it is that she's playing differently to an extent.
for sure, for sure.
But yeah, I don't have a ton to say. I think that she's been fun. I think that um she had like, I've made jokes about Genevieve's like third eye, just knowing things, and like her predicting that Aubrey was gonna have an idol. It was like great. Like I was like, of course, Genevieve knew, but just knew too soon. Anyway, I I think Genevieve is great. This season, I am nervous that because of the nature of it being the boomerang idol
Yeah,
and her not actually having it in her hands and Aubrey being the one with the idol, that she could get idled out.
I could definitely see that happening. I'll say two things about Genevieve. Number one, in addition to me thinking that that could happen, I do think that it helps if this is a legitimate merge at 17. I think that, I think Genevieve is probably honestly a pretty big threat. I think this is gonna sound weird, but I do think that like if I were on the beach with Genevieve, I would be threatened by her. She's
Hmm.
got aura. She has the most aura of anybody on the beach, and that is terrifying. So
She's got more Riz than Rizzo,
yes, for
the
sure.
real RizGod.
Yes, RizGoddess. Yes, we
Mm.
kneel to our queen. But regardless, I think that the merge happening helps her a lot. And I think in addition to that, I think that she's a good enough player. So I think she can navigate that. Because not only, I mean, sure, she has two boomerang idols out, but she also has two potential allies out there. Like, I think the reason she gave it to Ozzy in the first place was, hey, I hope I can work with Ozzy and he'll be grateful for this with honor and integrity or whatever. And I think she's right to think Ozzy would do that, especially when I think he's looking to get the heck out of Dodge, out of the Christian land. Um, Rizo, I think, is more of a question mark, but I mean, we'll see with that. Um, but no, I feel confident that Genevieve, in general, can find her way to navigate the situation, and I think she's been pretty fun on the season.
I think she's been fun.
Yeah. And hey, part of that navigation comes with the next player. I believe I set this up correctly. I never really know. Who's the person who is her op, who is in fact Aubrey, right now. What a fun rivalry. I didn't think I would say that, but what a fun rivalry. I just didn't first of all, I didn't expect this to be a rivalry, but I think it's pretty fun. But what do we think about Aubrey so far this season?
Um, she's fine.
Yeah.
I think that she's not someone that I was excited for, and I think that I still hold that I'm like, I could have had someone else on the season in place of Aubrey. I do think that Aubrey has added things. Like, I don't think she's like, oh, terrible, like, but she's not like my favorite. Um, but yeah, that's my opinion. I think she'll actually make it pretty far. I don't think we're gonna resolve the Aubrey Genevieve rivalry till later. I do think that I definitely want I know who I want to win the battle. I'll say it that way. But I do think that she's, you know, a, she's adding certainly an interesting dynamic to like the social relationships of the season.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's my take.
Well, you can't just say I know who I want to win the battle and then not say who you want to win the battle.
Oh, I thought it spoke. I want Genevieve to
Okay,
make it
I
out.
figured, but I wanted to get that on the record. Um,
Yes.
Look, I've had a complicated relationship with Aubrey Bracco, a purely parasocial one. I don't know her, but I've had a complicated relationship watching her because I've never gotten her. I've never understood the hype. Didn't understand the hype in Calrong. Didn't understand the hype in Game Changers. I felt vindicated when she did poorly on Edge of Extinction for not believing in her prior two seasons. And when she got casted, it was kind of similar to what I said about Colby before, where I was like, yep, okay, I guess Aubrey's here. But then I thought about it and I was like, wait, why is Aubrey here? What did she do to make it 4 seasons? And I kind of went even deeper into um my bubble of not understanding the Aubrey hype. However, that bubble has popped, kind of. I actually appreciate Aubrey now. On this season, I'm like, huh, she's actually interesting, and she's a unique game player, and she's bringing something to this season that I can only be rivaled by the old Colpster himself, which is absolute apathy, while everybody else is playing as hard as possible. I wouldn't say apathy, but at least
Yeah.
for the first few episodes, she seemed miserable. But now that she's starting to get into it, I'm like, okay, I see you, Aubrey. All right, okay. So
I think I think we have a different understanding between like I don't think of misery and apathy as interchangeable terms.
sure. I
I
think
think apathy is because I think that Aubrey cared at
yeah.
the first few days, but she was miserable because she didn't have relationships.
Yeah, I think I just used the wrong word, but
Okay, that's fine. I
yes.
was trying to think. I was like, do I not know what words mean?
No,
But
you
that's
do.
okay.
You do.
Okay.
I don't. I'm very dumb that way. But
We were just talking about
regardless,
how smart you are. Don't say that.
well, I'm an enigma. But
Mm.
regardless, I think Aubrey has been surprisingly fun. That's all I'll say about her. I mean, am I over the moon about her presence? I wouldn't say that. I mean, I could probably swap her for an Amanda Kimmel, and I would take that trade. But we
Or
can't do that at this
Jerry.
point. At this point, what's done is done. So, Um, I'll take it.
I really wish it was Jerry. And like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that would be nice. Yeah.
no,
Yeah. Well, she's here, so
yeah,
there you go.
and I'm happy for her.
Yeah, yeah. I think she's doing better here than she did on Edge of Extinction. So I mean that's
Has
good,
she
I
gone to
guess.
tribal?
Um, actually, I don't know. That's a really good point.
I don't
Actually,
think she has.
that's that's actually a really good point. I did not think about. Well, um, I don't know. Well, okay then.
We'll see how well she's doing.
Yeah, we'll see how well she's doing, I guess. All right, well, let's move on to our next people, and that would be Emily, because we are moving on to the next tribe. I decided to go with the smaller tribe, the Vatu tribe, as the first one because they're the first one that went to tribal council, and we're kind of more established in how these people are playing. But
We know these relationships.
surprisingly, this is something I was surprised by. Emily only had one confessional in this episode, despite, in my opinion, being kind of the
Lots of
center
content.
point of the tribe, even more than Christian. But just
Hmm.
going based off that, we'll talk about her first. So, what do you think of Emily so far this season?
Fantastic. Fantastic. I think that from, I think that she's made a lot of right moves for herself.
Yeah,
Does that
yeah,
make sense? Like maybe not for an alliance, but for herself and her positioning in the game, I think she's done a very good job and done a good job of positioning yourself well while looking like, oh, I didn't, little me, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
Um, I also think that while in that, it's been very entertaining. Not only is it been like good gameplay, it's been entertaining gameplay. Um, and she survived. She's been, she was honestly not really a target until Mike White was like, let's go for, we can't let Angelina be the one voted out. We, for some reason, aren't going for Stephanie.
yeah, yeah,
And then uh, picked Emily. Um, but other than that, and then she's had people go to bat for her, which is
yes,
good.
yes,
I think that shows a good social game. I think Emily's social game has been fantastic, which is really interesting whenever you hear some of the discourse about her online of what people are saying. I maybe I'm blinded by my love of Emily Flippin, but
I'll say this about Emily. I've been enjoying her presence for sure. Um, I will give her the benefit of the doubt because I know that she's very smart, but I'm a little curious why we haven't been shown like some moves that I think were done intentionally but weren't shown as being intentional. Like for instance, when she kind of flipped, like when she first got swapped to the other tribes and was kind of going around to everybody and being like, "Well, a Christian, I wouldn't trust him." I feel like that was kind of intentional to distance herself from him, or maybe it was just pure chaos. But either way, it worked out for her, and so I don't know. I like to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I shouldn't give her that. I don't know, but
I think you should. I think we've seen her say many times that she's not playing Christian's game, she's not playing Rick's game, she's playing Emily's game.
yes,
And I think that if that alliance meets back up and they go far, she needs to have things to separate herself and not just be the girl that was playing the game with Christian and Rick while they do all these things.
yeah. And I would say like in the world where somehow final tribal council were tomorrow, I think Christian could lose definitely based off maybe a more bitter jury.
Socials.
Like I think about this past episode. Ozzy gets blindsided. The person who wanted to get a White Lotus cameo from goes home. It's very tragic for him. And he's like, well, at least I know Emily didn't do this. Emily was trying to warn me about this.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I don't think she's burned any bridges yet. I think that she's still in good with everyone, while Christian, meanwhile, I think has definitely burned bridges.
I
So,
think that Christian has shown his cards more than Emily has,
yes, for sure. For sure.
while Emily still being a mover and shaker within the tribe. She's still done things with agency, but she's not getting the same threat put on her.
Yes, yes. I think Emily. for the most part, has gotten a pretty fair edit. I do think that she deserved to have more than one confessional this episode, but whatever. I do think for the most part, we've seen that, hey, she is strategic. Now, I will say, the casual fans that I've talked to are like, man, Emily's so all over the place. Like, she needs to go home. Like, she's not a good ally, which I don't necessarily think is fair. She's went along with the Mike White vote, even though she didn't want to. I think that's a good trait of an ally to do
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
she decided not to tell, even if she did clue in, try to like signal to, she didn't outright tell him. And she, whenever Ozzy brought up Christian's name, she switched gears.
yeah,
She used her social game that she able to garner up through that little, hey, they're gonna vote for me. And then, oh, how's your restaurant
yeah,
move
yeah.
to then have that social capital to move Ozzy off of Christian so that she gets to keep both her allies, both the people that would protect her.
Yeah, I mean, it's great gameplay so far from Emily, and going into a merge, I think she will not be a threat whatsoever. I think she's also positioned herself very well to stay low, lay low, and we'll see how it goes for her. All
Yeah.
right, let's move on to our next person on this tribe, who of course is going to be Stephanie, who is here. What do we think about Stephanie so far in this season?
Boring. Anyway,
Yeah,
I've never been a Stephanie fan. Even before recent controversies came out, I've always thought Stephanie is an uninteresting character.
yeah.
She might be interesting in a real life, but like I don't enjoy watching Stephanie. I didn't really, she's just never been my cup of tea. Um, I, I just, I think that she is a medium strategist, medium in challenges, medium, or maybe even depending on the, medium in challenges, medium and all the, like, she's a very
Yeah.
medium in all the, in no way is she exciting.
She's
Um,
mid, some might say. Yeah.
yeah, and if you're mid on a cast that's maybe has some duds, it's easier to seem interesting. She's mid on a cast that has interesting players, and so I feel like is noticeably less interesting. But that also could be like my existing bias of like she's always boring put on her.
Look, I think Stephanie is a victim of circumstance. And by victim, I mean a huge proprietor of circumstance because the reason she's been on Survivor 4 times and has been on the Traders and has been on Snake in the Grass and why she has an ex MLB husband, well, maybe not that much. Maybe I shouldn't go that far. Is because she was the victim of circumstance in Survivor Palau, where she was the last person on her tribe. And I will say, fascinating character study, Stephanie, that season. And her in Guatemala, equally as fascinating, especially since they're back to back, going from America's sweetheart to becoming a
A
villain on the
villain.
show.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff. After that, it's felt like every time I've seen her since, it has been I'm coasting off what I did before. I think she's mellowed out, really, is probably what it is. I don't even know if it's coasting. I just don't think she's very interesting anymore. Even when she goes on anti-Semitic rants, I'm not like, whoa, Stephanie's going on an anti-Semitic rant. I'm like, okay, I guess Stephanie's doing that.
And so
I'm just
I
not
guess,
interested in her. I'm just not interested in her. I think
yeah.
that's what it is.
I think that like yeah, I've yet to see a season where I'm like I want to watch Stephanie. So I think I don't think that she's adding much other than being like adding much to the season other than being like an I'm an old school player,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, I guess she's playing a good game because she manages
She's
to
still
skirt
there when
by.
she technically shouldn't be based off, you know,
Yeah,
alliances when you look at it surface
uh,
level. So
I think she's probably. I think she probably has some things going for her. I mean, I guess that she's loyal, and I guess that's good. She's a loyal alliance member. She's still all right in challenges, all things considered.
Mhm.
And I don't think she's a threat to win at the end. So I guess that's all good for her. And I don't know, but I mean, like, if they go to tribal council again, which won't happen because there's a merge on the way. But
Merge.
theoretically, if they went to tribal council again, I think it's very likely that they would just look at each other and be like, "Well, I guess now we get rid of Stephanie," which very much could have happened this episode, and very much could have happened last episode. And once again, she just kind of screwed
And
by.
could have happened the episode before that. Like,
That's true.
she
Yeah.
has perpetually been in that position for each travel.
And it feels like, unlike Ozzy, who I think is very much trying to force his way out of that position, to like he wants to. Oh, I have to make a move. I have to get Christian out. I feel like Stephanie's just kind of been like, no, whatever happens, happens. Whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't even call her a dud necessarily because I wasn't expecting anything from her when she got cast. I was like, all right, I'm gonna get the same person from Heroes versus Villains, and that has basically been the case. Except there's been no arguments with James, so I guess it's been a little worse. I don't know in terms of drama or whatever,
Entertainment. Yeah.
entertainment. All right.
Okay. Let's
Well,
keep on rolling.
let's move on to someone who is more interesting. Let's move on to Ozzy, who I mean we talked a decent amount about. I don't know how much else there is to really get into here, but I will ask: is there anything about Ozzy that you want to speak on, to talk on, to say things on?
So I was not like an Ozzy fan coming in, but I have liked this iteration of Ozzy the
Hmm.
most out of any. I think that um I loved the like relationship with him and Cherie. I think that on his original tribe he was a much more interesting character personally than I think he is on this one. I think that this tribe is like bringing out the worst in Ozzy, where the previous tribe was bringing out the best.
Yeah,
Um, and they were going to tribal in both of them, so it's not just going to tribal in one, not in the other. But I do think that Ozzy's added a ton to the season.
yeah,
Where and like I said, I've legitimately enjoyed him being a part of it. Um, South Pacific not being my favorite episode is going to be so much better now watching it, knowing 50,
hmm,
things like that. Where yeah, so I think he's paid off. I think he's doing the same thing Ozzy does with the language of I'm a changed dude.
yeah. And I mean we talked about it already, but I think that's awesome in a sense of like
It's
I
funny.
it's funny. It's funny, and it just shows that people don't change that much. Like, I guess maybe that's a little mean of me to say, but it's like it's been forgetting Game Changers because that season didn't happen. It's been essentially 12 years since he's played, if not longer. And I don't know, just like you can tell that I guess he's probably different, but at the same time,
Mhm.
it's like this is the same guy who doesn't like strategy, who people like but don't want to be in an alliance with, and just believes, hey, if I catch fish, I'm gonna stick around. And then he's
Yeah.
right until the merge. So
His initial reactions are the same Ozzy, though I will say he did turn around and apologize, which I don't think old
yeah,
Ozzy would have apologized. So I do think that he's maybe a little bit more aware of who he is and trying to make some corrections, but he's real bad about doing it in the moment.
yeah,
Also, I think it's also really fitting that we have Ozzy's twin, not currently on screen behind you, but on this season, um, Shambo and Ozzy,
that's
twins.
true. Yeah. I thought you were gonna say him and Mike Barassi, and I was like, well, I don't really agree with that. But no, regardless, I think I mean I guess both of them are kind of old at this point. I don't know. But regardless, I think look, I think I like Ozzy not because I'm a fan of Ozzy, if that makes sense. I just think Ozzy's fascinating. Like I watch Survivor beyond the strategy of
Yes,
it all. I watch it for character studies, and I know that these are real people, and I know
yes,
that I have talked to some of them personally. But at the end of the day, the way they're presented on television is as
it's
television
characters.
characters,
Yeah.
and I think Ozzy has been on Survivor 5 times now, and he has had a fascinating character study of like, if you just go from Cook Islands to Survivor 50, you will be like, oh, I see how he's developed, but I've also seen how he's not changed at all. And I think that's interesting, especially when he tries to give us this new persona of him, which is Oscar. I'm mature now. I'm mature when he's still the most immature person on the beach. He's the one who's being like, I can't believe Coach did that to me. I'll be honest, I'm really peeved off right now. And it's like, I can't believe you did that to me, Christian.
Well, okay. I do think that he is justified to be annoyed that Christian left him out of the vote, because
Sure.
that does show, like, I think that that's like, oh, maybe the relationship isn't as good as I previously thought, and I'm hurt and upset by that. I'm annoyed. I don't know how we're gonna, like, I understand all of those thoughts. Now, how do you navigate those thoughts is
Yeah.
where you're kind of like, okay.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like everybody this is what Christian was saying in the episode. It's like everybody gets left out of a vote in Survivor. Like it happens. It's how you respond to it that matters. And when I say immaturity, it's not like he's babbling like a baby or whatever. He's not going goo goo gaga. But nobody else so far this season has been like, all right, I'm going to call a meeting in front of the campfire and be like, I can't believe you did this to me. I can't believe that you lied to me. It should have been
To me,
Angelina who's sitting there going home instead of Mike White. I can't believe you did that to me when he did the exact same thing in South Pacific. So I mean, and they pointed that out during the episode. It's like that's what I mean when I like Ozzy a lot. It's like I guess I would think he's cool if I met him, maybe, but but also maybe not. I don't really know, but I do think he's a character I like watching on television because he's just always up to the same stuff. I don't know. It's like Coach is always up to the same stuff. It's the same
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to our next person who's also up to the same stuff. And that would be Christian, who continues to be the main character of this season, I'd say. And
By
what
a
and
long
what,
shot, I would say.
and what are we thinking about that? What are we thinking about Dr. Christian Hubicki this season?
Look, I love Christian. Christian's one of my favorite, players. Um, that said, I'm like, man, we're seeing a lot of Christian.
Yeah.
Like, it is to the point where I'm like, why are we getting so much of his perspective? It's more so, why are we getting so much of his perspective and not pieces of others?
Yeah. One
But
confessional for Emily versus probably 5 for Christian this
yeah,
episode.
yes. But but I'm more so like, I'm a confused. I'm not complaining.
Sure. Yeah.
I think Christian is so interesting. And did I agree with him this entire episode? No. But did I even think that he was also being a little immature?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But did I like watching him? Yeah. Do I think that he is just like, I really enjoy Christian. I don't know what else to say. We've already talked a lot about the strategy of their tribe. So outside of the character, he's fun. He's a
Mhm.
great confessionalist. His I think what makes Christian so great is not only is he smart, not only is he strategic, but he is like, the way he uses his like face and his body and his limbs
He's
to
expressive.
communicate, and more than just someone that talks with their hands, like he's very dramatic
Yeah.
and like wrapped in like a smart little nerd bow.
That's
And
true.
it's a lot of fun. Like, even in confessionals, he doesn't lose any of the passion. It's so great. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I totally agree. I'm all aboard the Christian train, choo choo. And from my perspective, it's like, hey, Christian is getting the bulk of the screen time. He's getting all the confessionals, but also like, isn't that what like all the Survivor fans wanted for like years before he was cast on this season? They were like, bring Christian back and give him all the screen time, and that's what we're getting, and he's delivering that. I will say this. Um, Christian was my winner pick going into the season. I am holding true to that officially, though somebody else is my unofficial winner pick now. Um, the one that I actually think is going to work out. I don't think Christian will. But if Christian does work out as a winner, I see his whole character arc basically being exactly the same as the guy he was talking about this episode, John Cochran. And I see it happening where it's like, man, Christian was controlling everything the whole game and nobody did anything about it. Um, and I think I could also see the backlash of going from, oh man, this everyone loves this lovable survivor nerd to being like, it was just nothing but Christian the whole season. I could see that happening. But for now, I'm still all aboard the Christian train. Choo choo. So
Yeah, I'm all aboard the Christian train. With I currently don't know how depending on if he continues to play like he has the past 2 episodes, I don't know how he'll do against a jury.
yeah, yeah. I could
Depending on
see
who he's
him.
sitting
Yeah,
with. If he's sitting with total goats, but it's hard to say who would be the total goat. Um,
yeah,
I think that yeah, I think that if he continues the way that he played like the last 2 episodes, he's gonna have a harder time winning. But I think that but I don't think that he's like no shot. I also think that eventually people are going to have what happened with Christian David versus Goliath and realize like, man, he's so great.
yeah.
We've got to get rid of him.
I don't see how Christian gets out of this, honestly. I don't see how he gets out of the pickle he's created for himself. Because like even if Ozzy is all of a sudden 100% loyal, he gets a shot at the dark and it's like, wow, Christian did that for me. I'm faithful to him now, which is not going to happen.
Not happening. Yeah.
Even if that happens, everybody else is going to ask, hey, what happened to those two David versus Goliath people? And then someone's going to say, oh, Christian voted them out. And then they're going to be like, whoa, Christian is really cutthroat this season.
Hmm.
And he probably already had one of the biggest targets on his back of anybody this season, at least definitely of the non winners. So
Yes. Yeah.
I just don't see how it happens. Ironically, I think one of the ways that he does that is by continuing to backstab people and getting people really mad at him. So they'll be like, well, I can beat him at the end. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know. His goose might be slightly cooked, but we'll see.
He would have to become Russell Haynes.
Yes. Which is funny because I don't know. Russell Hantz is behind me right now. I wouldn't say Christian is a Russell Hantz this season, but there is somebody else on this season who's reminding me of him, and we'll get to that. That's a tease. All right. Well, let's move on to our next contestant, who I believe, well, I'm just gonna let it go and we'll see if I'm right. Yes, is our dearly departed Angelina, who is the first person voted out in this Double Tribal Council episode. And what we think about Angelina this season?
Was very excited to see Angelina again. I think that she is in on the bit.
Mm-hmm.
And we've heard that she was doing a lot of more playing into it than what we saw. But I am assuming that we just didn't see a lot of Angelina. And so I'm assuming that her playing into it didn't quite come across the way it previously did.
Yeah.
Because part of what was so great about her initially is that she was being earnest.
Yeah, she had no self awareness.
Right. And now she was our self-aware queen. Which I'm gonna be honest, we didn't see enough of Angelina for me to have an opinion. I will say we did see a little bit of previous Angelina whenever she was like, I did appear on White Lotus.
Yes, that was the most old Angelina that we saw, quote unquote old Angelina, for sure. Uh, but yeah, we didn't really get that at any other point of the season. Um, and I think that is because she was hyper aware of her character on television, which I think is not a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to be aware of how you're presented and wanting to change that. I do think Angelina wanted to have her cake and eat it too, in the sense of I I felt like her mission this season was, I want to show people I am a normal person. I am a mom. Like that was her first confession. It was like, I'm a mom now. I'm different. I'm changed. I'm not stealing jackets anymore. That's not me. And then, when she gets voted out, it's like, by the way, I have to do my jacket bit. Just wait a second, Jeff. I gotta give my
Yes.
jacket away. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It felt like she wanted to adhere to the expectations that other people had for her, which I don't know. I don't think that she knew. Maybe she did know how she wanted to do that, and how she did that was just not particularly entertaining. Because I
Yeah.
think everybody on Survivor knows the character that people expect or want from them. I think Charlie's another good example when we talk about him of like he knew what his reputation was, so to speak. Um, but yeah, it's just a question of like, can you lean into that authentically if you want to lean into it at all, or can you effectively zig or zag your way away from that without seeming just like a completely different person? And I don't think this part is Angelina's fault, but I think the edit gave her no favors in terms of seeing a natural change within herself. There was so little of the old Angelina that it really did almost feel like a new person. It was like, I don't know who's on this beach, but that was just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, one more thing is just like I also think part of it is like we didn't see anything strategically from her the entire season, so we didn't even have like a baseline of strategy to compare it with. Because like Angelina in David versus Goliath, no one's gonna call her the best strategic player ever, but she was trying to do something. Like she was like, yeah, I'll hide a fake idol or
She
whatever.
wasn't
Yeah,
terrible. Yeah.
yeah,
She was an average strategist, I would say.
yeah,
She
yeah.
wasn't a below average strategist. She was just average.
She was an average strategist with a
Excellent
very
character.
below with an excellent character, a very below average level of self awareness, and probably a not very good social game. Though I guess
Yeah.
that kind of depends on who you ask. And I think this season it was just like a bunch of question marks across the board. I never knew if she was working with anyone other than Mike White,
And
I
Mike
guess.
White. Yeah. That's it.
Um,
For Emily for a little bit.
yeah, for a very little bit. Yeah, the only time we really got a strategic conversation is when Emily was directly like, "Hey, you're up next. Like you are gonna go home if something doesn't happen." And she was like, I never even realized that. I thought I was good. So maybe she was just as not self-aware as ever, and we just didn't see it. I don't know. I'm
Hmm.
gonna blame the edit for a good portion of it, but maybe not all of
Yeah.
it, is my thought.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we do have one more tribe to talk about, and we are going to do that. A tribe that's not been to tribal council yet, so let's talk about the first person, who is going to be Rick Devens. Who Rick Devens has actually been very invisible the last few episodes, surprisingly enough. Ever since he got swapped to this new tribe, I think he only had one confessional this episode and no confessionals last episode. I just
Hmm.
mentioned that because that's the reason he's here first. Um, because we did get a lot of Rick Devens beforehand. So, what do we think about Rick Devens so far this season?
Um, I think that he's been good. I think that he's been entertaining whenever we've seen him. Um, I think that he's played a medium social game. And I think that he, has is doing the Devon's thing of coming up with crazy, interesting strategic plays.
Yeah,
Um, I think that I think it became clear that the story we're because at the first few episodes it was hard to tell if we were seeing it was like, are we seeing the Rick story right now? Or are we seeing the Christian story? And now it's clear. It's like, okay, we're seeing the Christian story.
for sure.
And so that makes me a little nervous for his potential to win.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
But I've enjoyed him. I could feel like no strong opinion on Devon's currently. I like him, but I'm not
Hmm.
like he's not my favorite this season.
Yeah, I don't
Also,
know
for him to
because
be going to tribal and to get very little content is so interesting to me.
that's how I feel. I totally agree with you. I was just thinking about it. Like, yeah, Rick Devens. I would be surprised if he wins now because I feel like he's the type of dynamic male player that the edit loves. We saw it in Edge of Extinction. We saw it early on in this season. It's like even if he's not controlling the vote, even if he has no idea what's going on with the vote, he's going to give a confessional about it. That'll be
Well,
like,
and he's
you know,
such an interesting confessionalist that
exactly.
it's
He's
a
unique.
little baffling to
Yeah.
not see him giving
Yeah.
confessionals.
Yeah. We basically didn't see him at all this episode. I mean, that being
Other
said,
than we saw Jonathan attempting to like buddy up with him, which worked for Jonathan's
mhm,
part, but maybe worse for
yeah.
Devon's.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I have been entertained by Devon's this season, but I also think quite honestly, like we haven't seen him since the Joe thing happened. So
Right. Right.
I don't really know what that means. What I know is that I guess he was close with Suri, but then they voted differently this episode. So I don't
Do
know
you
what was
think we're
up with
not
that.
seeing the full story there?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think I don't know if Devons would do this, but I do think Suri doesn't necessarily want to give everything to the cameras. You know, she doesn't want to give
Right.
every single morsel of strategy she's doing. But I think if Devins knew about that, he would say, "Me and Suri are cooking up a scheme." Dun, 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 dun. So
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
think. Well, my thought was like, are they? Well, I'm just thinking, is the show not showing us?
Yeah, no, I
And
gotcha.
I think, yeah, like, are they because they were in an alliance on the
Yeah,
other and like a pretty tight one. And
I
so I'm
could see it.
wondering,
I could see
if they were like, let's vote separately so that we're not viewed as a pair. I don't know. Like, I
I
just am a little confused by how this vote happened.
From what I can think of, just thinking about how the new era has been edited, I feel like when it comes to stuff like that, that has happened before. I remember there being something similar happening in Survivor 45 at some point to like distance people from themselves. I think Drew and Austin maybe voted different from Dee and Julie at one point, and the edit didn't say anything about that. But
I know
then
that
maybe
44 Jam Jam and Carolyn talked about doing that kind of stuff and staging fake fights
right,
that
yeah.
turn into real fights.
I think that's awesome. I think that that sort of thing doesn't get shown because it's like it's complicated to a viewer, and they're trying to go for the lowest common denominator, right? And being like, and unless it's really important to the end product, I don't think it'll matter too much.
Right.
Because even if, let's say, Suri and Devons go to the merge together and are locked on lockstep, number one allies. I mean, the split vote different vote thing would just be a blip on the radar at that point anyways.
Right.
It
Yeah.
would be confusing the audience for basically no reason
For
if
no
I
reason. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it wouldn't be long-term significant. But I just thought I was surprised when they weren't voting together.
yeah. No, I was too. That's my explanation, or maybe they just drifted apart because there's no Christian to bind them together, no Christian glue.
Mhm.
I
Or
don't really know,
Emily.
but
Yeah.
or Emily. I'm not too sure, but regardless, yeah, Devon's has been entertaining. Yeah.
Devins has been doing what I thought Devins would do, which is good.
Yes, yes, for sure. All right, let's move on to our next person, who is going to be Jonathan. Um,
Bama boy.
Bama boy. What are we thinking of Jonathan right now?
So, I haven't seen 42. So, I came in only knowing the stature of Jonathan, essentially. And that we live relatively close to each other.
That's cool.
Not like I can run into him easily, but like we're in the same state.
Yeah.
And which I saw some people calling out Jonathan for like, why is he saying Mr. Jet or like whatever whenever he was talking? And I'm like, he's from the South. Everyone is Mr. Mrs. Yes, sir, yes. Like that is it does not matter. Like
Yeah.
if you're a grown man, if someone's a day older than you, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
No, sir. Like that is how um that's just I like people he's just a boy from Alabama. He's gonna,
Mhm.
he's gonna say Mr. Jeff. It's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that he's had more we haven't got a ton of content from him, but he's had more strategic content than I expected him to,
Yeah.
knowing the archetype I assumed he would be. But I've enjoyed it. I know, like I said, I know very little about him because I didn't watch 42. Um, I have through listening to other podcasts know that he was working with Marianne and Omer, and that
Mm.
he suggested to Marianne like, "Hey, what if we get rid of Omer?" And that's when that happened. Um, so I've you know he's been fine. He's been uh not the most entertaining, but not the least. He's just kind of been there.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. It's like we've gotten a decent amount of Jonathan content, all things considered. You know, he's talking about votes. He's giving his 2 cents. You know, he's strong man boy. You know, he does challenges well. But I mean, at the same time, it's like he's kind of generic in his own way. He's more entertaining than I thought he would be, but he is still kind of the prototypical challenge beast, in my opinion.
If we were going to have, I think I what I gather is that he's a similar archetype as because I'm watching 46 right now as Hunter.
Yes, for sure.
And I think Hunter, just from watching it, I think Hunter's maybe a more engaging person to watch than Jonathan.
He's definitely got a little more wrinkles to him than well, not the literal wrinkles, but in terms of like
Oomph
uniqueness.
to
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And I'm not
Um
saying Jonathan doesn't have that. He's got his little quirks, calling people Mister and Mrs. and whatnot, and he's kind of funny. I think he's a pretty funny
he also has
contestant.
very like hippy dippy style.
Yes, he does. But a lot of it is very much stylized, and the substance isn't too much there. You know, there's a lot of intricate icing, but
Hmm,
I don't know. He
no.
hasn't given too much to me as a player. Not like I necessarily need that, but I don't know. He's a challenge beast, I guess. You know, we'll see if there's more, but I kind of
Yeah.
expected more of him this episode because I feel like theoretically he's like the center of the tribe on account of the muscles, but we didn't really see that this
I
episode.
thought we got a fair amount from him. I think we saw him trying to secure majority and, you know, thinking, "Oh, who am I most likely to be able to sway? Me
Yeah.
being who I am, that's probably Rick. Let me
I
butter him
guess
up."
that's true. We did see that. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I guess just I think about what happened the rest of the episode, and it's like Jonathan was honestly
He
like
was on the
the
yeah.
he was on the wrong side, and also he was like the second least relevant contestant this episode, which is why I have him here because you know after this we'll get to Sari and Dee and Camilla and Rizzo and Charlie, and that's the
Yeah,
rest of the
that's
tribe,
fair.
and they're all more interesting in my opinion. So hey, let's do that. Let's get to them. And let's start off with whoever I have next. I don't remember who it is. But it is apparently D. D is here. Um, what do we think about D so far?
So, Dee's fine. I have never so I can recognize Dee played a fantastically dominant game.
Yeah,
She, she deserved the win of 45. Great job, Dee.
yeah,
Do I think Dee is fun to watch? No. Um, and I've said that since 45. I was rooting for uh Jake and Couture and Bruce. Those were my three favorites. So I was like Jake, Couture, Bruce, and, which made it for and Emily, but Emily went out kind of.
mhm, yeah,
Well, I guess she went out after Bruce, but
yeah,
I anyway. So I was not like rooting for her alliance because I was like these are the least interesting. Drew was funny, but like
yeah.
she was kind of like
The
not the
linchpin
biggest
of
character.
uninteresting people, kind of.
Yes.
Yeah,
And so I think that we've seen what we expect to see of Dee, which is a strong strategist and pretty good at challenges. And that's kind of my opinion. Like, I don't think she's super interesting to watch, but I do see the appeal.
yeah. Um, And to be totally honest with you, I disagree with you completely. I think Dee's
That's
great
okay.
television. I think she's so interesting, especially I mean, maybe this isn't her actually, but she's a winner. She's a winner and she's playing the game still so well regardless, in my opinion.
Mhm.
I think she's interesting. I think this episode proved that she's a very good confessionalist. I mean, I think that part of her challenge experience is that I mean, I wouldn't say maybe very good, but I think that she is more dynamic than I think people give her credit for in the confessionals. And she's more willing to be honest when she was like, yeah, I expected Charlie to be really good at Survivor, but he's actually like really bad at it, which I don't think anybody else on the cast would have the audacity to say, especially on 50. But I think um Dee's kind
Camilla
of
would have the
playing
audacity, I think.
who would?
I think Camilla would have the audacity.
That is true. But I adore both of them. So I guess, I'm all right with that. Regardless, I think D is kind of playing with house money, like Rizzo is, so he said himself. I mean, she already won. She wants to win again. I believe that she could do it, but I think she's good in challenges. I think she's an amazing social player. And I think she just brings fun energy. It's not like she's a boring winner who's back and it's just like I I know that you just said that you think she's boring. I disagree with that. I think she was a
That's
really
okay. We
interesting
can have
winner.
different. I
I
just am so surprised. I feel like we have a lot of similar opinions.
No, I'm firmly on D is the best winner of the new era, and I also think she's probably the most interesting winner of the new era. I think she's well, maybe Rachel is more interesting.
I think she's the
Gabe,
best, but
yeah,
I
I
don't know
think
if she's the
she's the
most
best. I
interesting.
think she's one of the more interesting ones. I think she's more interesting than Erica, more interesting than Gabler, more interesting than Jam Jam, more interesting than Kenzie, more interesting than Kyle, more interesting than Savannah. So top three most interesting winner of the new era, in my opinion. But that's just me.
I think she's more interesting than yeah. I think I would probably. I think we have just the flip reverse opinions of D. I think that she's except for we do think I think she is like on paper like the most dominant new era winner, very good at the game. And I do think she's playing a good game. I just don't like watching it. I don't think she's interesting.
I
But that's just me. And I know that I'm not like majority on that. There's lots of people that disagree with me.
I just to me it's like Dee did something in her season that nobody else has done in the new era, which is she weaponized
Boys
flirting.
crush.
But
Yeah.
yeah, she weaponized that and used that effectively. And I don't know. I think that's cool. I think that's interesting. And it's like she did that to the extent of like she did that so well that she's still friends with all of them. Like there is no salt about these win. They're like, yeah, no, she really played all of us. I think that's interesting. I think that's fascinating, especially in a multi-season sense. I think she was pretty good on the challenge, but also uh
I've never seen the challenge, so I
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, she wasn't amazing on the challenge. I'll give it up for that. I'll give that up. But I don't know. I think she's interesting for sure. But yeah, I don't know. All right, let's move on to someone else. Perhaps someone we will agree with on things. I don't know. Camilla, 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 just mentioned her. Camilla, can we agree on Camilla? Let me ask you, what do you think about Camilla?
I love Camilla. I think that she was a one of the most interesting characters on her previous season. I think she's been very interesting on this season. Great confessionalist, very fun, but also very strategic. I think she's in a great place. I think she made a very good choice tonight. Praise for Camilla, you know.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And she was in the middle of this vote. She was right in the middle. And I do think that she made the correct move to get rid of Charlie instead of Rizzo at the end of the day. Certainly, in my opinion, for more interesting television was getting rid of Charlie. Um,
Oh, we
but
thoroughly disagree there.
okay, we will get to that. We will get to that.
Yeah. But we
Um,
both love Camilla.
but hey, yeah, Camilla, we're focusing on agreeing right now, and we agree that Camilla is great. Look, I mentioned earlier that Christian's my winner pick, but I have a secret true winner pick that I truly believe in, and that is Camilla. I think
Yes,
she's got all the makings to win here. Talk about a
I
great
agree.
confessionalist. She's also a great confessionalist, great strategist. She doesn't have the the baggage of having Kyle in the game anymore, which I think helps her a
Helped
lot.
her a lot. Yeah.
She's good in challenges. I was talking about this with Noah last week that like she's one of the best puzzlers in Survivor history, probably. And I think she's very underrated despite all that. Um,
Hmm.
and I believe that she can make a. I have faith in Camilla that if she makes the end, she can make a hell of a speech. So
I agree. I
I
mean, she basically helped Kyle give his speech. So
that's true. She did the speech for Kyle, basically.
yeah,
Uh, so yeah, no,
I
I'm
think she's
all
great.
aboard on the Camilla train. Choo choo.
I I also could see Camilla being a very viable winner.
Yeah, yeah. Um, no, I'm a fan of her for sure. Yeah, I think that this is kind of a coming out party for Camilla this episode in the sense of like we didn't get very many confessionals from her, especially in the early going. Part of that might have just been because I don't think she had
They
gone to
weren't going to
tribal
tribal.
council at this point.
This is the first
Um,
time we've seen Camilla at tribal.
but I think this is good. Like episode 5 of 46 is when Genevieve started like getting into the edit, and I think you know Camilla getting into this season sort of in episode 5 is a good trait. It's like all right, Camilla's here and she's immediately in the middle of everything, just like Genevieve was. That tells me, and that tells me that Camilla should be in the middle of things for a while to come. I don't think that they would just spur us on with, "Hey, Camilla's in the middle now, and she's like so strategic and smart, and don't you love her?" And then just immediately rip her away from us. That
Yeah.
would make my heart hurt. I would be so sad. Um, so shouts out to Camilla. Um, Nothing but good things to say about her. And yeah, Camilla. We agree on that.
We
Camilla.
agree on that.
We agree. All right, let's move on to our next person, who I believe is Sari. Yes, Sari Fields is here. Um, Look, she didn't get any edit. She didn't get any confessionals last episode. This one, I felt like we were back to all right. Sari is here, and well, I will just say this before I ask what do you think about Sari on this season. How does she keep getting away with it? How does she keep getting away with it? It's a good question. All right, what do you think of Sari so far?
I am every time I see Cherie cast on something, I'm like, do we really need to see Cherie again? Like we've seen her so much.
I know
And then we get into the season, I'm like, gosh, she's magical.
that's so true. You know, it's easy to forget how much Sari has been on television. Like, I would legitimately be curious, like, if you
A
took
lot.
every Survivor contestant who's like famous for Survivor, who's been on television, who has spent the most total hours on television that you could watch. I imagine it'd be Boston Rob
Boston
number
Rob,
one by like a
Cherie.
lot, and then I think it'd be Sari.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because I think the Boston Rob fatigue is pretty real. I don't think it's as real as it used to be, but I do think it's still pretty real. I think it's his traitorsness helps, but he's still been everywhere. I think the Sari fatigue is purely theoretical. It's theoretical. Like, you know, it's a hypothesis. What if we had too much Sari? Well, it's possible, but it hasn't happened yet. I haven't overdosed on Sari Fields.
And and like I'll say this, Cherie has never been like my like when I'm listing my favorite players, I don't often actually think of Cherie, but every time I
Me
watch
neither.
her, I'm like, she's doing it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I'm glad that she's on. Now, do I think that like she needed another season? Eh, but I don't think that like I also think that like you can make an argument for both. I think that you can make an argument that she did, and then you can make an argument that she didn't. And so like I am very glad. I think she's been entertaining. I think it's so interesting to see everyone talk about the greatness of Cherie and
Mhm.
then fall for it.
Yeah. No, I mean that's why I ask, how does she keep getting away with it? And to speak to what you said, in my opinion, I do think that she needed to come back again because like I know she was on Australian Survivor. That doesn't count. She needed to be on another US season because of what happened on Game Changers. And
Right.
I think she's proving that. I think Ozzy put it very well, I think in episode 2 or something, where he was like, she is just social magic. You know, she casts spells on everybody that makes them want to work with her. Like I
Well,
I don't get it. I get it, but I also as a mere mortal, I feel like I can't possibly comprehend it until I've talked to her. You know what I mean?
well, and when they were talking, when she like had very real potential of being voted out in that early episode,
Yeah,
Ozzy kept saying, "No, but she has other strengths. She might not
that is
be
true.
challenge strong, but in like I think that we just see that. We see the other strengths, even if you can't exactly name the exact thing it is. She has the strengths and it is helpful to the season and it's helpful to her allies to a point.
I think her strength, her magic is being able to convince other people that they can't possibly play the game without her, you know,
Right.
or at least don't want to not have her on their side anymore, you know.
Yeah. How dangerous it is to not be on Cherie's good side.
And not even that. I mean, just like I think about it from the perspective of like Christian, let's say, just because he's the main character of the season. In episode one, it was the question of hey, Jenna or Suri, who goes home? And at the end of the day, it wasn't so much like, well, if we get rid of Suri, you know, we get rid of someone who's not very good at challenges. It became more of like, well, I'd rather have Suri on my side than have her not in the game anymore. Because if she's on my side, why would I want to get rid of an ally like that? While with Jenna, it's like, even if she is on my side, she's going to be so all over the place that I won't know if I can fully trust her. So Suri has that trust factor and has that makes everybody feel like they could be aligned with her, which
Mhm.
I think is really unique. Because it means she doesn't have to play both sides. She can just be herself, and she's automatically in the middle, like like it's a superpower. It's crazy,
Mhm.
but yeah. Um, that being said, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Of like, I'm not over the moon about. I mean, I am over the moon about Suri. I just said a lot of very kind things about her. But like, if I list my favorite players of all time, like Suri would probably not crack my top 10. Like I would put like Kelly Wentworth and like Coach
Yeah.
and other players above her, Courtney, et cetera, et cetera. Many others as well that I cannot think of with my mind at the moment, but trust me, they exist. Um, but yeah, Sari would not necessarily be there, but it's like her magic works on me as an audience member because I
Mhm.
sit there and I'm like, I don't want her to go home. I want her to
Yeah.
stay for the entire game, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't see if Cherie can make it to Final Tribal Council, I say she's 100% won the game. I don't think
Oh, sure.
anyone else could beat her.
I would love to know what the situation would be where she loses in final tribal council. That would that would she would have to have done something heinous, you
Hey,
know.
like she like something so terrible that like
Yeah.
they
It
couldn't even put
wouldn't
it on
yeah.
TV.
It would be Island of the Idols all over again, you know, it would just be that sort of thing.
Yeah.
No, maybe not that much. But either way, it would have to be crazy. Or whoever wins would have to like literally play a perfect game. Um, but regardless, Cerise's here and it's awesome. So there you
Mhm.
go. All right, let's get to our title card. Let's get to the main event. Let's get to the rivalry of the century of this cruel summer. Let's get to Rizzo versus Charlie. And we can kind of talk about these two, I think, together because their stories go hand in hand at this point. So,
Yeah.
um, I guess my question is sort of this beef. Whose side are we on? Whose side aren't we on? And why?
So I'll preface by saying Charlie is one of my favorite Survivor players of the new era.
Okay.
Like he is like pretty close to the top. I was like, if I were listing my top three players, Charlie would be there
Yeah.
probably. So like I'm a big Charlie fan.
Okay.
So I think he's one of the most engaging confessionalists. I think he is very entertaining and silly, but also a great strategist. I think Charlie is fantastic TV, and I love watching him. I don't think you agree with me there,
I
but
Maybe I do, maybe I don't. I don't know. You have the floor. I won't say a word.
Um, and then so that's my bias coming in to the season 50. And I think he also delivered engaging great confessionals in season 50. I think he was fantastic while he was here. I think that his strategy was maybe blinded a little bit by, I think that he played a pretty good game, all things considered, with the fact that he went home. Like,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
didn't, he obviously messed up somewhere. I do think he was blinded by a little bit of his previous game.
His
Um,
trauma, yeah, for sure.
but I do think that he was great TV, and I was very happy to see him on 50. Very sad that he's gone. I think that we'll fill that loss. Rizzo, I liked him enough on 49. Sorry, 49. I thought that he was like in the similar, not in a, like, how does he keep, not the same way that Sheree does, but like how does he keep getting away with this with his shenanigans.
Yeah.
Um, but I was on season 49, the people I was rooting for, like my favorite characters were Sage and Jawan. Like I was like, Rizzo's good. He's fine. I'm glad, he adds to the season. I understand why he's getting put on 50, but he's not like my favorite. He wasn't my favorite then, and I've liked him less on 50 than I did on 49. I liked him on 49. Like I truly did like him on 49. I don't really like him on 50. I think that uh I think he's fine. Like I think he's being honestly the same Rizzo,
Yeah.
but I'm seeing him up against more characters as well, and I'm realizing I like those other characters more than I like him. It's like in the group he's in, he doesn't rise to the top for me. He just kind of is there. I do think that I think he's good at the game.
Yeah.
I was impressed by his, I'm impressed by how he's able to get away with it. Not many people can be that, I don't know, arrogant might be too strong of a word, but that
I think that's a fair
braggadocious.
word. I think it's fair to call him arrogant. Yeah.
Okay, that arrogant and get away with it. Um, I do think that I do fear that I don't think he's gonna last too long. I think that people are catching, like, Camilla's caught that he lied to her,
Yeah.
that he embellished things, Like I don't think he's going to make it to quite the end.
Hmm.
Um, but he's just like he's doing Rizzo. He's doing what Rizzo does. Um, and I'm okay with it, but and I probably would maybe be enjoying it more if it didn't result in Charlie going out. Charlie, like I said, one of my favorites. So that's like a ginormous loss for me.
Yeah.
So I think that makes me like Rizzo less this season because he took out Charlie.
Well, I completely disagree with you. I mean, that's just where
Who
we're
would have
at.
known?
Um, I will start with Rizzo. Just because you ended with Rizzo. Um, I think I've enjoyed Rizzo more this season than I did last season, and I think the reason is simple. I think it's last season he was playing with a lot of people who were like himself, right? A lot of young Gen Z people who are, very
Cinema
online,
Riz vibes.
and understood what Riz meant. Yes. And I think this season, by nature of it being a returnee season, it's mostly older players. The next youngest I think was Charlie actually, which is kind of funny. Um, but it's mostly people who are in their 30s who would not be considered Gen Z for the most part. Um, I'm getting my camera back. All right,
You're
but I'll
good. Yeah,
keep
you're a
talking
little
when I
fuzzy
do
right
it.
now.
All right, we're back. And what I'll say about that is like I think that makes the Rizzo gimmick more entertaining. Where it's like, yeah, if you're calling yourself RizGod and have Colby be like, this guy's calling himself RizGod, like, that's funny. It's good. It's good television, in my opinion. Um, and I think Rizzo's been playing a good game too. I also think it's interesting because the other shoe is going to drop at some point of him being like, yeah, I'm in a great spot because I'm in a returnee. I'm playing with house money. Nobody else is. Like, I want to be one of the best players to play this game. At some point, the shoe's going to drop. I hope he gets blindsided with the idol and it goes back to Genevieve. That is my hope. That would be
We
great
agree there.
television. And it would also be exactly what I would want. It would be a great character arc. And when Rizzo comes back for Survivor 75, then he can be like, I'm a dad now. I don't even know what Riz is anymore.
I've changed.
I'm Riz dad, you know. That'll be who he is.
And then
So
he'll tell people about his great accolades of 49.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, I
He's
think
awesome. That's what I was
I
joking.
I think Riz is fun. I do. I think he's been fun this season, but he is the person who I was talking about earlier that reminds me of Russell Hantz. He reminds me of it. He's a little smarmy in his own way. He's not Russell Hantz level, but he's scheming, he's smarmy. He does stuff with idols that nobody else does. He loves lying for no reason. Like when he I guess no reason is probably an exaggeration, but like for very little reason, like
No good reason.
when he said that Sophie was his number one instead of Savannah, which might be true, but people are not sure of if it's true or not, and people thought it was a lie at first. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but if nothing else, the Kyle told me to work with you. He told me to go to you and work with you. He really said that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's. Well, I don't think I'd be convinced by it, but I'm also so cool and smart, so of course I wouldn't. But I think yeah, Rizzo is interesting in that sense. No one else on the cast is like that.
Well, and both Russell and Rizzo really believed they were controlling everything, and they kind of were,
They
you
kind
know?
of were, but at the same
But at
time,
the same
like
time, no one really gave them any like any like no one cared.
yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Like Rizzo says, I would be one of the best players to play this game. Well, you didn't get to final tribal council, man. Like if you did, you could make the argument, but I mean,
I don't
I believe he would lose anyways. I don't think he would win. Regardless of whether you know it was to Savannah or to Sophie or whatever. Um, I
I
still think
think
he
that his
loses.
best shot of winning would have been next to Sage,
Yeah,
but I honestly
three
don't even
people.
know. Then I think it would have been like, yeah.
It would have been close and not in like a whoa. These two people are extremely deserving winners because at the end of the day, like Savannah, as much as I enjoyed her presence on 50, and I do think that she's a pretty good winner, I don't think that she was a great winner. And I don't
I
think
agree.
Sophie would have been a great winner. And I don't think Rizzo would have been a great winner, you know?
I don't either. I think that a 49, I think Savannah was the best option.
Yes, I would agree with that. Because
I
like
do
even
think
if
that
yeah,
now what I have loved, I think for the I think the storytelling one would have been very different, but Sage as a character is I think very fun to watch.
yeah, I
And so
think
that would have been a very fun and interesting winner. But I do think that like I don't know if 49 had the strongest winner options.
no. And that happens sometimes. I mean, you're not always gonna get a D or whatever. But I would say that yeah, that's just kind of the natural thing. But it's like Samoa, also not a season with great winner options. You know, Russell Hantz will say, "Hey, I want to be one of the best people to ever play this game." I'm pretty sure he said that exact thing on Heroes versus Villains before he knew what he looked like on television, or had people in his ear being like, "You didn't deserve to win, by the way," you know,
Hmm.
um, which I think he will get eventually, or I guess probably has already gotten. Um, and that's just kind of how it goes with Survivor. I think Charlie was very accurate in saying, "Hey, you don't understand half of what coming back from Survivor means because you haven't had to experience it yet, which I think is essentially what he was saying with the you don't understand whatever he was saying. So yeah,
Well, and I think that part of it was Rizzo was telling all these great stories of what all he did. And he was saying, you're the hero. Like,
you're the
everyone
hero of
is
your own
seeing
story.
things through their own perspective. You're the hero of your story. You don't know if that's going to be what's portrayed on screen. Because once you see the show, you're realizing you're a piece of a bigger story, of lots of, everyone has their own story that is you're seeing glimpses of. And I
And
think that
for
was what he was going for.
and 49 to me, especially, is a season that like doesn't have a hero. Like Savannah wins, and I guess maybe she's the protagonist because of that. But like, she's she's not super nice on that season. You know, she's not a
No.
hero.
Yeah.
Sophie, I guess, is kind of a main character, but at the same time, she doesn't win. You know, Rizzo does a lot. Sage does a lot. Jawan does a lot. Steven is the plucky underdog for a little while until he gets voted out. But there's not really one person I'd be like, yeah, that's the protagonist of the story. You know,
Yeah.
Russell Hantz is not a positive protagonist, but he's the
He's the
protagonist of
protagonist. Yeah.
Samoa and Heroes versus Villains. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the difference, I guess. But yeah. Anyways, those are my thoughts on Rizzo. Actually, one more small thought. I wanted to point out my favorite thing from this episode, which has to do with Rizzo, which is telling people about the Billie Eilish Boomerang Idol. Always the Billie Eilish Boomerang Idol, never the Boomerang Idol.
Well, it's always the Billie Eilish idol. He never said the word boomerang,
Oh, got it.
which
Okay,
also
okay.
like drove me a little bit crazy. I was like, it's gotta add the word boomerang.
Um, I have a theory, which is every time Rizzo has told somebody about the Billie Eilish Idol, he has been sitting in the same hammock in the exact same spot, or somebody has been sitting in the hammock. I believe that that hammock is magical because that has caused Rizzo to tell someone about the idol 3 times
Three
now.
times.
I think it's like Wonder Woman's like truth lasso or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you sit in the hammock and the truth, your secrets, they just spill out.
Spill out. Yeah. But
Um
specifically, it's when Rizzo's sitting in the chair and Rizzo's secrets spill out.
pertaining
And
to Billie
Charisse
Eilish. Yeah.
pertaining to Billie Eilish.
And Suri. Yeah. So I thought that that was very funny. Um Especially when Charlie did the exact same thing to Camilla at that I think it was at that hammock, or maybe
They
it
were at like
wasn't.
a fire. They were walking.
Yeah,
They were like on a trail.
yeah. Well, regardless, maybe that's why it wasn't effective because it wasn't by a hammock. A hammock is the perfect place to divulge secrets, I
That's why she
guess.
didn't receive it.
But no, I was actually very impressed by Rizzo this episode, just being able to get the votes on Charlie and not having to play his idol. Because I kind of expected Charlie to go home. Um,
Interesting.
I thought it was going to be between him and Rizzo, I should say. But I thought it was more likely that Rizzo would either play his idol or just not play his idol and go home. I didn't really think it would be the thing of just like Charlie just goes home on natural. I didn't think that would happen. So
Yes, I thought that we were about to see because it felt like we were leading up to Rizzo going home to
yeah,
me, based on
yeah,
the
me too.
storytelling, based on tribal council being all about Rizzo. Um, which because like you when you see someone, I'm like, oh, they're giving him like giving him his chance to say his piece before he goes.
Yeah,
No, it's just like Rizzo just did that, and then Charlie goes home. The storytelling really made me think it was going to be Rizzo.
yeah, yeah, for sure. We kind of did get like his. It felt like a death march almost, which is like Rizzo. You played twice in a row. How do you feel? And then he was just going off like, yeah, like it's awesome. Like I'm in such a better position naturally than all these other people. And like when people go back to back, they always do well. This is why I say I think the other shoe's gonna drop sooner rather than later. But I mean it didn't, and Charlie did go home. And look, I think Charlie's a good confessionalist. I think he's an interesting um player kind of. I thought he was more interesting this season than he was in 46 in my personal
Really?
opinion. Um but I also think he kind of by the end in this episode, I felt like was doing a little bit of the same thing Angelina was, where he was kind of playing into what other people expected of him. Like maybe it was natural in the sense of like everyone's been telling me that I've been robbed for 3 years now or whatever, but I think going on about it in the voting confessionals and being like, I'm gonna keep targeting Rizzo because he said that. It reminded me of Maria. Oh, my flashbacks, my flashbacks. And then even doing it in the voting confessional, I thought I was like, all right, okay. Either the editors are just picking one thing out of the whole pool of things that you could be saying, or he's just very much trying to make this his edit and trying to make this his characterization for the season. So I don't know.
I don't know. It came across very earnest to me, but you
Yeah,
know.
I I don't know. I thought it was earnest too for the first few episodes, but then we kept doing it. So I didn't. I don't know.
But think about it in their time, it's like 2 days.
Yeah, yeah. I
We're seeing
guess.
it 2 weeks apart, 3 weeks, or however many. To them, it's like this is a couple days.
Yeah, that's true. Um, but no, I will say I think Charlie was a very good narrator for the season. Um, I don't know necessarily. I'm a little surprised that he went home at the end of the day because I do think it was better for Camilla's game to get rid of Charlie, in my personal opinion. But
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that it shouldn't have naturally happened because I feel like Camilla was flipping on maybe the allies she already had, but also she hadn't been to tribal council yet, so I don't really know. But I don't know.
I think the thing is that when on their original tribe, we saw Camilla talk about how she didn't want to work with the
The macho,
honesty,
yeah,
integrity, macho mans, and so I think it's honestly you have Jonathan, who's now looped in Rick,
yes, yes,
and that's the person that he brought in. So it's Rick, Jonathan, and when you add Charlie to it, it just seems like the bros.
yeah, yeah.
Even though I don't think Charlie's like a playing with my bros type of dude, I think that that's just how it comes across in that dynamic.
He's not actively fighting it like Rizzo is.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes. He's playing with whoever's playing with them, I think, is what it is.
yeah,
And Jonathan was the one playing with them. And so I think that Camilla, in response to her previous season, she's like, I'm not doing that again. And we saw on her original tribe that her alliance was with like Tiffany and Dee. And
yeah,
so those were the people she was close to on her original alliance. So when it's Dee and Cherie, and then Rizzo, who's like doing shenanigans, you're like, okay, I can go with them. And those are three people that are going to probably go out before me. Those are bigger
yeah,
threats than I.
yeah. It's a good point for sure.
So I think that it made sense for where we saw their original tribe that she was already working with D. She's going to continue to work with D.
Yeah. No, I do think it was a good move, and I think you did a good job at laying it out. The last thing I'll say about Charlie is I love the voting confessionals. I love that we don't often get like old school like full voting confessionals from people showing
Yeah.
their votes. I thought Rizzo's is great. I loved. Let me talk a little Taylor Swift to you. I loved that. I thought that was great. Charlie's, going back to what you were saying before, saying, you shouldn't have done that. I remember that. Um, I did want to ask about his exit. We hadn't seen any Taylor Swift related content from Charlie all season, and then when he gets voted out, he says, "Teardrops on my guitar." You think he
You
had that planned from 46? I think that's a leftover from 46 because he
think it's a
got voted
leftover?
out.
I don't know. I did notice that throughout the season, we heard Rizzo mention Taylor Swift more than Charlie. I wonder how much he just wasn't saying it or versus it just there's 24 players. You can't include every little thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that one. I don't
I
know.
my
He didn't.
guess
He might maybe.
here's my prediction, not a prediction. Here's what I believe was left on the cutting room floor, what I hope was left on the cutting room floor. Rizzo strikes me as the type of guy to be a stan of some pop girly, but I don't think it's Taylor Swift. I think he strikes me as like a Sabrina Carpenter like super fan or something like that. maybe the real beef between them came down to fandom at the end of the day. And maybe they had an
No, no, no.
unaired
Olivia
song.
Rodrigo versus Taylor Swift because there's real beef there.
Yeah, yeah, no, I could see it. Because like Rizzo doesn't strike me as like he's not a Tate McRae or anyone like that. Like he's not like that. I don't think he's artsy enough for like Charlie XCX. But I think I don't know. He's Sabrina Carpenter or Olivia Rodrigo because he's got that sort of like he would be really into some original Disney Channel star likes music. Like that's what I believe. Um, and I believe comparatively, he's not as into Taylor Swift, and that's where I truly believe their beef came from. I think all this Maria nonsense was nonsense. I think that's where the real source of this beef was. So that's my personal thought. So there you go.
Yes, yes, yes.
Much to consider. All right. Before we wrap things up, one more thing. Addie, you might not have heard about this, but it's true. We are going into a merge of 17 people, apparently. First, I want to get your thoughts on that.
So my theory, I think we have a cast of 24 people in a 26-day game. My thought was that it's a returning season. They're not gonna wanna. They're gonna want to give people their time. So the bloodbath wasn't gonna be early. It's gonna be later. I think we're about to hit a bloodbath where we're going to have a bunch of double tribals.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that that's how they're going to handle it. I think we're going to have a bunch of double tribals, a bunch of weird things to merge but not really merge so that we see everybody interact, but then we also get to divide things up and have more tribal councils.
Yeah.
I think is what's going to happen. I think that by the nature of the production schedule and by the nature of the cast size, you're gonna have to have a weird bloodbath somewhere. I think now is a fine point to add that. And so I knew coming in we were going to have like people dropping like flies at some point.
Yeah.
And so I guess we're heading there now, episode 5. I don't have many strong opinions about it. I do think it'll be clunky. I think it'll be hard to get a clear story and get why each person's voting what they're voting.
Yeah. For sure.
I think that it's going to be hard for storytelling, but I think that it is going to only be that way for a few episodes till they can get to normal numbers.
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, it's like I hate large merges. I hate them. I think if you have more than 12 people merged, I think it's always comes down to a consensus vote and it's not interesting. And it's hard to tell everybody's story and figure out where everybody's head is at when there are so many players on one beach. However, if there's any season to do that, it's probably a returnee season because you already kind of get the sense of who people are if you've seen their previous
Yes.
seasons. And there's been so much content with mostly everyone that I think it's fine. Like Tiffany and Chrissy could use some more content to even it out. But like for the most part, I know the deal with most everybody on the beach. Um, all that being said, I would be interested to see what actually happens this episode. I'm not
Yeah.
totally convinced it's not just going to be like a fake merge or even like a one world thing where they're still on separate tribes. I think that'd be kind of cool. But
Yeah.
we'll see.
Look, hot take. World what gosh, the words just escaped me.
World War II? What?
No. One World.
Oh, One
There it
World.
is.
Okay.
I think the
Gotcha.
One World twist is honestly a pretty good twist,
Yeah.
but it just happened to be with the less than stellar cast.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even think it was the cast problem. I think it was like two people on the cast problem. Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
So there's that. Maybe we'll see it one day again. Probably not. But this is like a test run almost. 17 people on one beach. There are 20 people on one world. I mean, even if they're not divided into tribes still, I mean there will be factions and that'll be close enough. Um Regardless, I had a question because of the merge being 17 people. Pretending that all these people are here and we've crossed out Charlie and Angelina's names from here, who of all these people is gonna go home next episode. Hmm.
Okay, if I'm gonna say that we have at least 2 people going home,
Okay. All right.
and so I'm gonna give I do think that big merge people probably don't wanna rock the boat too much,
Mm-hmm.
and Angelina's gone. I think that, um, hmm, I think there's a chance that we see one of the I think that there's a chance we see Jonathan go.
That's where my head was going. I gotta say that's where my head was going.
I think Jonathan's a pretty good candidate. I also think that this is where we could maybe see Stephanie go.
It's like you're reading my mind.
We're trying not to rock the boat because there's so many people. What's going to draw the least lines and upset the least people? I think that from what we've seen so far, Jonathan and Stephanie would be the candidates for that.
Yeah, here's my thought looking at the cast. I'm just gonna go over who I think are not going home and explain that. I think Suri Magic, she will be here.
Mm-hmm.
Devins, I think, has a strong enough alliance that I think that he's not gonna get touched. Um, I could see Dee going. I could see
You
Jonathan
could.
going. I do not see Camilla going. Rizo has an idol and he has allies, so I think he's not going home. Chrissy, I could see as a consensus maybe. Coach, I think, is okay. Tiffany, surely we get more content from her before she went home.
That was my thought with
Aubrey,
Tiffany.
Aubrey has an idol. Colby, I think, would not be an immediate target. Genevieve could be a target, but I think she's got more in the tank. Joe, I could be Joe. Stephanie could be Stephanie. Christian might is a long shot. Emily, I think, is safe. Ozzy, I think, is safe.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go. Assuming 2 people go home, I'm gonna go for Jonathan because I mean his odds of winning immunity are so much lower when there's 17 people. Um, and I think he's an easy consensus. And I think D, for similar reasons, is also a
Mm-hmm.
pretty easy consensus. I think that would be a consensus in the fact
Oh,
that
get rid of the last winner. Yeah.
yeah, in the sense of like everyone's going to be along with it, but I don't think everyone's going to be along with Jonathan either. But I think that's the easiest way to get people in the middle to kind of be like, well, all right, as long as it's not me.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
do think that there is a chance that Rizzo goes because Genevieve specifically said that she wants to boomerang. She gave the Rizzo to the Rizzo the idol uh
to Rizzo and to Ozzy, yeah.
to Ozzy. Yes, I was like, why can I could only think of Oscar. To Ozzy. I, from what I've gathered, mostly to build relationship and alliance, and if it bounces back, great.
hmm
But she specifically said, I think Rizzo's someone confident enough to go home with an idol in their pocket. She talked about wanting to blindside him. I think that could be a thing that gets brought up. I don't think it happens this episode, but I do think it could be in conversation.
Yeah, no, I could see that, especially with his whole thing at this past tribal council, which is like, I'm the best, I'm great. You know, it would
Yeah.
be it. Would, like I said, I think the shoe's going to drop eventually, and it could be next episode. It could happen.
Yeah.
So
I think it's something that is talked about and people like don't actually go with it and that it ends up being a boring consensus vote.
yeah. All right. Well, there you go. Do you have any other thoughts on the episode or the season, Addie?
I thought this was a good episode. Um, I thought that um, it was overall a pretty good episode. I think that I think we lost 2 fun players.
Yeah.
But we're at the point where honestly, honestly, with the exception of Stephanie, we're gonna lose someone that's adding something.
Yeah. To me, I have been personally very satisfied by the boot order. The only thing,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Q.
part of me is a little sad that Jenna went home first, but also I think
Same.
thematically that's pretty good. Like it's pretty good in a macro scale. And I'm sad Q went home, but also I'm not surprised. Like, come on. I was not surprised by it. But
I honestly think, because I think Q played pretty good game for, like, I think they honestly was doing pretty good. It just happened to be how the swap happened and how
yeah,
things, anyway.
yeah.
But I do think that he messed up when he, like, I think that he messed up at the swap.
hmm
But I think up until then, he was doing really good.
Yeah, I agree. And I should say relative to my expectations going in, because really everybody so far, with the exception of I guess Angelina has soared past my expectations for them. Like I loved Savannah on the season. I loved her on the season. I
Mhm.
did not expect that going in. I love
Yeah.
Kyle on the season and in one episode. I did not expect that.
Yeah.
Q, I expected him to be great and he delivered. Mike White was more entertaining than I expected him to be, honestly.
Oh,
Which is I mean, maybe not by that much, but he fell in line with my expectations for him, and then he also had a six pack. So that's what I'll say about him.
I think
Uh,
that, yeah, Mike White for me, I had really high expectations and fell lower than that because I thought he was more entertaining on David versus Goliath, but
gotcha.
he also had more time then. So
And then Charlie was I like I said, I enjoyed him more on this season than I did 46. So I mean, I I've been entertained so far, but I also am all right with the food order. I haven't had any of my big favorites go home. Coach is still here. Camilla is still here. I'll take it, you know. Christian's
look,
still here. I'm good with it, you know. I'm fine. Genevieve's still here. We're good.
we're good.
We're good.
Um,
But yeah,
no, I'm okay with everything that's happened. I think it's been, like I said, I think we're at a point where everyone that goes, there's gonna be like, ah, man, you know.
yeah.
Like I said, except Stephanie.
Well, with that in mind, thank you, Addie, so much for coming on the
Thank you for
podcast.
having me.
I appreciate it and see you all later. Bye bye.
Bye.